ETFs and corporations, new businesses getting into the Bitcoin game. This would probably make a lot of OG Bitcoiners kind of, fearful or scared, and it is. And so there's, again, a rising discussion or fear of Suitcoiners taking over Bitcoin, taking over this space.
Love that term, by the way. Love that term.
Yeah, I agree. So this is an article written by Sergio, a Bitcoin.com news writer. Really, really great guy. I encourage you to read this article. I enjoyed it a lot. But basically, I think the premise is rather self-explanatory, and then he goes into detail about it. But it's this idea that as Bitcoin gets adopted by mainstream institutions and traditional financial institutions that have a lot of money, then their influence on Bitcoin conceivably could grow as well. And you could see them start to maybe even influence the future path of Bitcoin. Is it like a kind of a deal with the devil, right? The Bitcoin ETFs I remember before the ETFs were coming out, there were a lot of OG Bitcoiners being like, I don't want this to happen. This is not good for Bitcoin. We don't need this, right?
We don't want the financialization of Bitcoin.
We don't need the financialization. We don't need billions and billions of dollars being put into Bitcoin, being controlled by a handful of institutions.
Yeah, we want people to self-custody their Bitcoin. And it's a valid argument, all right? I do think it's extremely important for a large portion of the network to actually custody their Bitcoin. Why? Because if you don't, then it can be taken away from you easily, much more easily than if you custody it yourself.
Also, though, like you can, I think Empire had a really good episode on the game theory that around this, where they're going into how are decisions to change the Bitcoin network made, and essentially, they're made by people who hold Bitcoin, right? So there's, miners hold Bitcoin. They also mine Bitcoin. You have individuals that hold Bitcoin, and then now you have like these OG people in the Bitcoin space that have a lot of Bitcoin, and now you have these ETFs and all these kind of traditional financial institutions that hold Bitcoin, and they're becoming a bigger and bigger potential voice in the future for decision making on changes to the Bitcoin network, i.e., soft fork, hard fork. Are we gonna adopt this new opcode thing or not? And so, I think it's very legitimate whether how much Bitcoin you want to be controlled by these kinds of organizations.
Yeah, but it's interesting though that at least if you, on the face of it, if you believe what they're saying, these Suitcoiners, they sound a lot like OG Bitcoiners or Bitcoiners circa 2015. They sound like I thought about Bitcoin when I first encountered it in 2017. And what they're saying is this is a currency that is independent of the government. It has a fixed supply. It's a hedge. It's censorship resistant. They're saying all the talking points. So that's interesting. And then on the other hand, a lot of like non-suit coins call them, non-Suitcoiners call them the class of meme coin, the new entrants, like a crypto, like a Degens.
Trench warriors.
Trench warriors, Degens. These people tend to look at Bitcoin and sort of like gloss over, like skip it. They don't have that raw like ideology about what it could be.
I think, and
not excited by it. They're just looking at they're looking to profit from meme coins.